We're back. Yes. My internet is just disconnecting randomly. Has been for a while, so I got the Ethernet cable and tried to plug it in, but there's no plug for it on this computer, so couldn't do much about that. So we'll just wait until everyone's back. We got 4. How many did we have before? I want to say, I don't know how many. Hey, we got 5 out of however many we had before. 8, I think. Yeah. I think it was 8. Yeah, I think we had about 1 person. So, oh my god, 5 people. Hey, you're back. I'm back. Let's see how long it is before YouTube, well, before my internet cuts out again for no reason. I did think of plugging in the cable, the Ethernet cable, so that the big boy could drink, but there's no plug for it. No drinks for the big boy. Oops, sorry. Okay, we got 6. Where do we get up to? Yeah, the party at the stone building. The whistles. The whistle blasts would accept these respective signals in an analogous manner, forcing an entrance at the first and at the second, descending whatever passage into the ground might be discovered, and joining the general or focal warfare expected to take place within the caverns. A third or emergency signal of 3 blasts would summon the immediate reserve from its general guard duty. Its 20 men dividing equally and entering the unknown depths through both farmhouse and stone building. Big boy drink cable. Computer drinks internet, but computer also drinks electric. So there are a lot of things computer needs. And sometimes you gotta wash him with an antivirus. He's a good boy. Or girl. Computers are boys. Phones are girls. What the fuck am I talking about? Captain Whipple's belief in the existence of the catacombs was absolute, and he took no alternative into consideration when making his plans. He had with him a whistle of great power and shrillness, and did not fear any upsetting or misunderstanding of signals. The final reserve at the landing, of course, was nearly out of the whistle's range, hence would require a special messenger if needed for help. That's true, they are binary. That's true. Wowza. Because computer is the roundy boys and the up and down men, zeros and ones. Binary. Computers. God, I'm so smart. It's incredible. Moses Brown and John Carter went with Captain Hopkins to the riverbank, while President Manning was detailed with Captain Mathewson to the stone building. Dr. Bowen, with Ezra Whedon, remained in Captain Whipple's party, which was to storm the farmhouse itself. The attack was to begin as soon as a messenger from Captain Hopkins had joined Captain Whipple to notify him of the river party's readiness. The leader would then deliver the loud single blast, and the various advance parties would commence their simultaneous attack on 3 points. Shortly before 1 a.m., the 3 divisions left the Fenner farmhouse, one to guard the landing, the other to seek the river valley and the hillside door, and the third to subdivide and attend to the actual buildings of the Kerwin farm. Really long thing just to tell us their plan. Eleazar Smith, who accompanied the shore guarding party, records in his diary an uneventful march and a long wait on the bluff by the bay, broken once by what seemed to be the distant sound of the signal whistle, and again by a peculiar muffled blend of roaring and crying and a powder blast which seemed to come from the same direction. Later on, one man thought he caught some distant gunshots. And still later, Smith himself felt the throb of titanic and thunderous words resounding in upper air. It was just before dawn that a single haggard messenger, with wild eyes and a hideous unknown odor about his clothing, appeared, and told the detachment to disperse quietly to their homes, and never again think or speak of the night's doings or of him who had been Joseph Curwen. Something about the bearing of the messenger carried a conviction which his mere words could never have conveyed, for though he was a seaman well known to many of them, there was something obscurely lost or gained in his soul which set him forever more apart. Oh, he was a weird seaman. I get it. That is pretty ominous. Now I get why he set out the battle plans in so much detail. So it's like, yeah, the emergency guys waited around and then that happened. So it was the same later on when they met other old companions who had gone into that zone of horror. Most of them had lost or gained something imponderable and indescribable. They had seen or heard or felt something which was not for human creatures and could not forget it. From them there was never any gossip, for to even the commonest of mortal instincts there are terrible boundaries. And from that single messenger, the party at the shore caught a nameless awe which almost sealed their own lips. Very few are the rumours which ever came from any of them, and Eleazar Smith's diary is the only written record which has survived from that whole expedition, which set forth from the sign of the Golden Lion under the stars. Charles Ward, however, discovered another vague sidelight in some Fenner correspondence, which he found in New London, where he knew another branch of the family had lived. It seems that the Fenners, from whose house the doomed farm was distantly visible, had watched the departing columns of raiders, and had heard very clearly the angry barking of the Curwen dogs, followed by the first shrill blast which precipitated the attack. This blast had been followed by a repetition of the great shaft of light from the stone building, and in another moment, after a quick sounding of the second signal ordering a general invasion, there had come a subdued prattle of musketry, followed by a horrible roaring cry which the correspondent, Luke Fenner, had represented in his epistle by the characters war, war, which is so funny. It's so funny. Let me just type that for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. All I can think about is dinosaur comics. Scary. This cry, however, had possessed a quality which no mere writing could convey, and the correspondent mentions that his mother fainted completely at the sound. Well, now we know. It's war, war, war. Scream. I don't see Cthulhu screaming. He seems like the strong, silent type. Complicated, troubled, handsome, distracted. This cry, however, blah blah blah. Oh yeah, his mother fainted. It was later repeated less loudly, and further but more muffled evidences of gunfire ensued, together with a loud explosion of powder from the direction of the river. Gunpowder, you know. About an hour afterward, all the dogs began to bark frightfully, and there were vague ground rumblings so marked that the candlesticks tottered on the mantelpiece. A strong smell of sulphur was noted, and Luke Fenner's father declared that he heard the third or emergency whistle signal, though the others failed to detect it. Muffled musketry sounded again, followed by a deep scream, less piercing but even more horrible than those which had preceded it. A kind of throaty, nastily plastic cough or gurgle, whose quality as a scream must have come more from its continuity and psychological import than from its actual acoustic value. Ew. Just sounds ew. Oh shit, I really need to read Awoken. I know it's a parody now, so I'll be less horrified and more amused. But yeah, I need to get back into Awoken. Definitely. Um, yeah, absolutely, I will do that. Um, maybe it is the proper words distorted. Oh, I didn't know. Because I didn't know it was a parody of like Twilight but with Cthulhu, because I've read so much young adult fiction since I was like a kid, too young to be reading it, and right through to being an adult, too old to be reading it. And some of it is just so horrifically bad that I genuinely could not tell. So, well done to them. Well done to Sarah Ellenson, who was two girls, I think, two women, two women writers, two authoresses. Stop talking. You're just digging a hole. Then the flaming thing burst into sight at a point where the Kerwin farm ought to lie, and the human cries of desperate and frightened men were heard. Muskets flashed and cracked, and the flaming thing fell to the ground. A second flaming thing appeared, and a shriek of human origin was plainly distinguished. Fenner wrote that he could even gather a few words yelled in frenzy: "Almighty, protect thy lamb." Then there were more shots, and the second flaming thing fell. After that came silence for about 3/4 of an hour, at the end of which time little Arthur Fenner, Luke's brother, exclaimed that he saw a red fog going up to the stars from the accursed farm in the distance. No one but the child can testify to this, but Luke admits the significant coincidence implied by the panic of almost convulsive fright, which at the same moment arched the backs and stiffened the fur of the 3 cats then within the room. Cats know what's up. Writerettes. 5 minutes later, a chill wind blew up, and the air became suffused with such an intolerable stench that only the strong freshness of the sea could have prevented its being noticed by the shore party or by any wakeful souls in Pawtuxet village. The stench was nothing which any of the Fenners had ever encountered before, and produced a kind of clutching, amorphous fear beyond that of the tomb or the charnel house. Close upon it came the awful voice which no hapless hearer will ever be able to forget. It thundered out of the sky like a doom, and windows rattled as its echoes died away. It was deep and musical, powerful as a bass organ, but evil as the forbidden books of the Arabs. And here he's actually possibly not being racist, because the Necronomicon, the evil book, the big deal evil book, was written by the mad Arab Abdul al-Hazred, which many people have pointed out doesn't make any sense as an Arabic name. I mean, he's also being racist, right? But he's referring to the Necronomicon here. What it said, no man can tell, for it spoke in an unknown language. But this is the writing Luke Fenner set down to portray the demoniac intonations. Dies mes jeshet bon dosefi duvema enitamos. Not until the year 1919 did any soul link this crude transcript with anything else in mortal knowledge. But Charles Ward paled as he recognized what Mirandola had denounced in shudders as the ultimate horror among black magic's incantations. Ooh. Sounds like Kofifi. Remember that? Remember Kofifi? Everyone went nuts for it. Pretty funny. Some people are still going nuts for it, which is really weird. Hi, Jesse. Hi. So the people of the olden time have raided Joseph Kerwin's farm. No, I'm good. And sorry. They've raided his farm and exploded it, and a monster was yelling in the farm. That's about all we got up to. An unmistakably human shout or deep chorused scream seemed to answer this malign wonder from the Kerwin farm, after which the unknown stench grew complex with an added odour equally intolerable. A wailing, distinctly different from the scream, now burst out and was protracted ululantly in rising and falling paroxysms. At times it became almost articulate, though no auditor could trace any definite words, and at one point it seemed to verge toward the confines of diabolic and hysterical laughter. Then a yell of utter ultimate fright and stark madness wrenched from scores of human throats, a yell which came strong and clear despite the depth from which it must have burst, after which darkness and silence ruled all things. Spirals of acrid smoke ascended to blot out the stars, though no flames appeared, and no buildings were observed to be gone or injured on the following day. Nightmare on Kerwin Farm, yeah. It is the horror movie ending, though, isn't it? Where there's just like smoke. The monsters are gone. The sun comes up. Toward dawn, two frightened messengers, with monstrous and unplaceable odours saturating their clothing, knocked at the Fenner door and requested a keg of rum, for which they paid very well indeed. One of them told the family that the affair of Joseph Kerwin was over, and that the events of the night were not to be mentioned again. Arrogant as the order seemed, the aspect of him who gave it took away all resentment and lent it a fearsome authority, so that only these furtive letters of Luke Fenner, which he urged his Connecticut relative to destroy, remained to tell what was seen and heard. The non-compliance of that relative, whereby the letters were saved after all, has alone kept the matter from a merciful oblivion. Charles Ward had one detail to add as a result of a long canvass of Pawtuxet residents for ancestral traditions. Old Charles Slocum of that village said that there was known to his grandfather a queer rumour concerning a charred, distorted body found in the fields a week after the death of Joseph Kerwin was announced. What kept the talk alive was the notion that this body, so far as could be seen in its burnt and twisted condition, was neither thoroughly human nor wholly allied to any animal which Pawtuxet folk had ever seen or read about. So much going on. Yeah, the every time Lovecraft describes a horrific odor that humans have never smelled, I think about candy floss flavored vape smoke. Every time. Every time. It's like if you had a clown's pubes in like a little pipe and were smoking them, that's what that would smell like. Not a fan. I don't mind vaping, but the candy floss one is ugh. I was going to say we've only been reading for 18 minutes, but that was when my internet last cut out, so you guys want me to carry on? First vote always gets it, so Lovecraft would be terrified of vapes. First vote gets it. You got it, Josh. I'm seeing double. 4 Joshes. That's such a stupid joke. Anyway, chapter 6 of part 2. Or part 3, I can't remember. Not one man who participated in that terrible raid could ever be induced to say a word concerning it, and every fragment of the vague data which survives comes from those outside the final fighting party. There is something frightful in the care with which these actual raiders destroyed each scrap which bore the least allusion to the matter. 8 sailors had been killed, but although their bodies were not produced, their families were satisfied with the statement that a clash with customs officers had occurred. The same statement also covered the numerous cases of wounds, all of which were extensively bandaged and treated only by Dr. Jabez Bowen, who had accompanied the party. Hardest to explain was the nameless odour clinging to all the raiders. Candy floss. Candy floss vape. A thing which was discussed for weeks. Of the citizen leaders, Captain Whipple and Moses Brown were most severely hurt, and letters of their wives testify the bewilderment which their reticence and close guarding of their bandages produced. Psychologically, every participant was aged, sobered, and shaken. It is fortunate that they were all strong men of action and simple orthodox religionists, for with more subtle introspectiveness and mental complexity they would have fared ill indeed. Meow. President Manning was the most disturbed, but even he outgrew the darkest shadow and smothered memories and prayers. Every man of these leaders had a stirring part to play in later years, and it is perhaps fortunate that this is so. Little more than a 12-month afterward, Captain Whipple led the mob who burnt the revenue ship Gaspee, and in this bold act we may trace one step in the blotting out of unwholesome images. I just realized that, these brave American heroes who are fighting the wicked King George and his taxes and evading the customs officers and all of this stuff, I mean, that they're Antifa, right? Of their time. Is that too reductive? I don't give a fuck, man. I went to university, but I did not graduate. Anyway, there was delivered to the widow of Joseph Curwen a sealed leaden coffin of curious design, obviously found ready on the spot when needed, in which she was told that her husband's body lay. Don't put him in the coffin that he had made himself. What the fuck? You're Antifa, Harry. Oh, you're a gender criticist. Welcome to Mumsnet. Fucking, you know what? I'm not going to go off topic. He had, it was explained, been killed in a customs battle about which it was not politic to give details. You could do that in those days. You could be like, well, your husband's dead, but he died during a dude thing. Like, it was a guy's night. It was war. We can't tell women about it. I'm sorry. Anyway, the point is, he's dead. He's in a box. Now it's kind of a you problem. Sorry for your loss. More than this, no tongue ever uttered of Joseph Curwen's end, and Charles Ward had only a single hint wherewith to construct a theory. This hint was the merest thread, a shaky underscoring of a passage in Jedediah Orne's confiscated letter to Curwen, as partly copied in Ezra Whedon's handwriting.